I thought the book and the movie were both really outstanding. The main difference between the book and the movie is that the book goes into a number of these computers, whereas the movie, because it's 2 hours and 7 minutes, could only concentrate on a few, so they selected 3 of the women. But the book I thought was outstanding, and I thought the movie was very good. I'm disappointed it didn't win an Academy Award for the Best Motion Picture. The interesting thing is that when I saw it with my wife, at the end of the movie, people stood up and applauded. And I don't remember that in many movies. I spoke to my colleagues at the College of William and Mary. Everyone who saw it said the same thing happened. I asked them, I said, what happened at the end of the movie? And they said, people stood up and applauded. And so just about everyone that I know that's seen the movie, probably 50 different people, all said everyone got up and applauded. And that's a testament to the movie, I think. The term computers was actually a job title that the agency before NASA was called the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, NACA. NACA was formed in 1917, and what's now the Langley Research Center was called the Langley Memorial Aeronautics Laboratory in Hampton, Virginia. And initially, beginning in 1935, NACA hired a series of women, mostly white women in 1935, to reduce data from wind tunnels. This is really before we were involved in space, so it was the National Advisory Committee on Aeronautics. And at the Langley Memorial Wind Tunnel, they had, at the Langley Memorial Laboratory, they had some of the most powerful wind tunnels in the whole world. And you run an experiment for 15 minutes, and there were millions and millions of calculations that had to be made on the data. And the engineers, the men who were running the experiments, really didn't like to spend days and days and weeks reducing the data. They liked to design the experiment, and they liked to get the results. But that intermediate step, before you can analyze the data, is presenting the data in a way that it's meaningful. And that's what these computers did. Before I moved to Williamsburg, I lived in Hampton, and many people who live in Hampton don't even know about what's happening at the NASA Langley Research Center. And it's very interesting because Margot Lee Shetterly, the author of Hidden Figures, her dad worked at NASA for 4 decades. In fact, he and I were in the same research group. His name is Robert Lee III, and we were in an atmospheric science group where we studied the atmosphere of the Earth and the atmospheres of the other planets. And about 5 years ago, Margot, his daughter, and her husband came to Hampton to spend a holiday with their family, and they went to church service, and Bob, her father, pointed out the number of women at the church service that had worked at NASA as computers. And Margot and her husband were very interested in learning more about it. And Bob told them what these women did and the contributions they made. And the reason it's called Hidden Figures is the story was hidden. And she wrote a proposal for a book, and the rest is history. And just last year, Katherine Johnson, age 98 years old, received the Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama for her contributions to the U.S. space program. And just about 2 weeks ago at the NASA Langley Research Center, they renamed the computing center the Katherine Johnson Computing Center. So this is a story that people who worked at NASA Langley knew but very few people outside of NASA Langley. And it's thanks to Robert Lee's daughter Margot that now the whole world knows about this very important contribution to the space program and the role that African American women had in the program. I think that when people see this movie, they can see what these pioneers did in very difficult circumstances. And you walk out of the movie with the feeling, look, they did this, I can do it. I think a movie like this is very good because it shows what you can achieve if you put your mind to it. And I actually think that producing more scientists and engineers is a very critical problem. And in terms of science literacy, we're like number 24 in the countries of the world. And you know, in the past 50 or 60 years, if you look at Nobel Prize winners in all areas of science and physics and chemistry and medical research, it's United States has the clear lead. That's not going to continue for long, though. So I think that a movie like this can really excite the next generation of scientists and engineers, and I think that's very important.